taking, this is our time. Just breathe, this will be a hard fight. The truth cash out in the night.
What's up, everybody? I am Johnny Two Bears, and welcome to Sasquatch Unredacted. Richard is backstage. He is working with our guest. Our guests are having a difficult time coming on. So, for the next 45 minutes, I'm just going to stare at you, and you can stare back at me. No, there's Richard.
Hey, sorry about that. We're having some technical difficulties there. It wouldn't be StreamYard without that, right?
Yeah. You get them
So,
worked out?
yeah, I see Ernie. Ernie's backstage now, so we're good to go. So, we'll
Cool,
get
man.
him out here. We'll get him out here in just a minute. So, I wanted to start, and I want to let everybody know they've got to check out your latest part two. Was it for your documentary?
It's not really part two. It is, I guess technically it would be a prequel to the previous documentaries I put out. The last one I put out was They Exist 7 Years of Sasquatch in Georgia, part one and part two. And then this one is They Exist God, Orbs, and Sasquatch in Georgia. So it's kind of the prequel. It's all the things that I really don't normally go into. We had a lot of spiritual events take place around here for about 5 years before the Sasquatch activity even started. And once I got involved, once the Sasquatch activity started, I just kind of left the other stuff in the past, just because it was more to me just like I don't know, just a time in my life that we experienced amazing things, and there wasn't very much crossover between the two. So I always, you know, always looked at them as separate events and just different phenomenon. And over the years, having a group, we always talked about the fact that yes, there is another side of this that people talk about, and we don't know. Nobody really knows 100% if there is a spiritual connection between, the Sasquatch and the orbs and all the other things that people uh, experience. So I just kind of explored that a little bit, kind of went into my own research and explained some of the weird things that have happened, and then kind of given my conclusion on what it all means. How I've worked it out in my head and what I believe these creatures are and what their relation is or is not to the spiritual side of our existence. And yeah, I took a lot of time doing it and thoroughly enjoyed it, and hope everybody does too. So go check it out on the Sasquatch Encounter Brigade.
No, I've got to admit, I watched it and it was I liked it a lot because one, it delved into everything you've been doing, but two, it was great to you open up. You showed a side of you, and I think it was the documentary was very personal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think people can really grasp onto that when they watch it. I think it was really good, and that it was. I enjoyed it. I was sitting at my desk at work. I didn't have a whole lot to do, and I just put in my earbuds and watched the whole thing, and that's why I called you right after work. I mean, that was pretty good. I liked it. It was really nice.
Well, I appreciate it. It was, that's really what it's all about, and that's, even in the first two documentaries, I talked about how, this topic is number one. I'm not a scientist. I've never claimed to be a scientist, but I take this topic very seriously, and I also take it personally, which is good at times, and at times it's not. It is what it is, but it's it's why I'm so dedicated to it. It's because it's been a big part of my life, and it's all been very, very positive. So,
And I'm seeing a movement. I don't know if you've noticed it. I don't know how much you follow on social media, on Facebook, and all that. And I follow quite a bit. I follow like 30 something Facebook pages, and and then a lot of close researchers that I know and stuff like that, and I like to see what they're doing. And it seems like there's a change in the atmosphere where they everybody's now holding the, who to say, the non-believers, just the people that make jokes about this and put up stupid stuff and um blob squatches and fake narratives. Everybody is now stepping up, saying enough's enough. You know what I'm saying? I think people are, the researchers out there like yourself and myself that are taking this very, very serious. This is a topic that's very dear to us, and
Right.
I think these people have finally had enough. And I know I have. It's been bothering me for like 2 months now, where I'm just so tired of the trash. You know what I mean? And when you've got good documentaries like yourself and the putting in the boots on the ground field research, you're using common sense, you're using forensic evidence, and then you got these people that just throw a picture of an oak leaf up there and say, "Hey, I saw this in my backyard," or somebody makes an AI photo and says, "Hey, I found this in my grandfather's dresser drawer from 1920s." You know what I mean? It's getting frustrating, and so it's really refreshing to see a lot of researchers stepping up and saying, "Hey, enough's enough of the craziness out there." So
Yeah, I think people have people are smart. They can tell when, I mean, then again, there's other people out there that are hoaxers that have, hundreds of thousands of followers, and it is what it
yeah,
is. You can't really do that. You can't do anything about that. All you can do is tell the truth yourself. For me, it's like the whole thing because of the connection. Now, I'm not going to give away the conclusion that I come to in the documentary, but basically, the without going too deep, this topic's become almost like a religious experience for me in the fact that it doesn't work unless you tell the truth.
right.
Like it's one thing if you want to make up stories and you want to lie and you want to fabricate things and put it out for people to see to get followings. You can do that all day long. But
Oh
if
yeah,
you actually want to make progress with these creatures and getting evidence, every single bit of it has got to be built on solid ground and truth because you can't go from A to C if B is a lie. You'll never get there. You'll never actually get real evidence if you're fudging stuff.
yeah, and
You'll
things
have
don't
to
line up,
always fudge stuff. Right.
right?
Exactly.
Because it just doesn't line up. You're right. That you hit it right on the
Yeah.
head.
And
So
that's just one of the things that I enjoy personally because there's like you don't find a lot of things in life that are pure, and I guess that's one of the things that ticks me off is it's so easy just to tell the truth with
yeah.
this. Just all you got to do is tell the truth, and you can maintain that purity, and you can actually get somewhere. But then you have people that throw in all the other garbage, and it gets
Well,
convoluted. You know?
yeah, it muddies the water, and then you wonder why there's such a non-believer following out there, because and they want to make fun of and ridicule and stuff like that, because you can't blame them. I mean, look at some of the stuff
Yeah.
that's being thrown out there, and we're shaking our heads going, "Oh my God, why is this person posting stuff like that?" And there's so many people out there that will buy into it. That's what amazes me the most. Like you said, you have a guy, and we'll throw him out there because he's all over the net. Is Mike Patterson or Peterson, Mike, whatever they're on Sasquatch Ontario, with all that coming down with the mask and everything. He's got 80,000 followers, so a lot of people buy into that, and then it comes out and it's shown that, wow, this is completely false, which we had that feeling anyways. It didn't take a rocket scientist. And then it was flat out undeniably proven. If anybody goes to Brian King Sharp's pages and look at what he's done to reenact the whole situation, it's just amazing how many people just buy into it. That,
Then
oh,
Brian actually found the mask, didn't
correct, he found the mask, he ordered it, And then he took it and he recreated the whole scene that Mike and Wayne had created in Canada, and he created it, and it is spot on. I mean, it is spot
I
on.
haven't
I mean,
I
you'll
haven't
find
seen
it.
all that.
Yeah, it's
I have
pretty
to go check
impressive.
that out.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. I mean, there's little subtle changes because you know, if I told you to draw a picture of me, it'll look like me, but it won't be exactly like me. So there's little subtle
Right, right,
things because they're the ones who actually created the hoax. So, but he's creating the hoax of the hoax. You know what I mean?
right.
But it was spot on. When you look at it, you're like, whoever doesn't believe now that Mike and Wayne are um, full of crap, then I don't know what to tell them. But it's crazy. And those things have to happen. That's we had Steve Coles on, and Steve Coles does that when he sees something that's just blatant, and he's like, "Wait a minute, come on now," he'll expose
Right.
it and say, which was really funny because he went up to New York State Fair because of that guy that's claiming he has a Bigfoot body. You know what I mean? And so everybody hasn't seen that, go check out Sasquatch Detective, Squatch DTV, and he did a whole show where he went to the fair, met the guy. It's all on tape. The guy was really cool, allowed him to videotape everything. He went in, sees the body and everything. He videos the body and all that. And the funny thing is the guy is it's performance art. He's not really hoaxing. He's just performing because he goes into character when he starts to talk about how he came across the body and all that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
but the guy is not charging for it. That was the thing that was out there, that he was charging $10 a person to look at it. That's not true. You can walk in and look at it for free. There is a donation or a tip jar if you want to donate. But the guy's a performance artist. His character is something snake something. His name has snake in it. That's his character. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I get it. There is an entertainment value in Bigfoot, and that's what he's doing. So,
Well,
but
cool. Let's bring our guest on, man.
yeah. So tonight we got Ernie, and me and Ernie have talked a few times on the phone. Really great guy, man. I enjoyed talking to him. He's very level-headed and just an all-around good guy. He's he was up in Ohio, and he's just recently moved to Kentucky. So he's had some trials and tribulations there, but it seems like he's made it through it to the other end, and he's doing well. And so I'll bring Ernie on, and we'll get started. And and we've got Ernie might know these people. It's Ohio Bigfoot researchers are in the chat room. So let's bring Ernie on. Hey,
Hey,
Ernie, how you doing, buddy?
hey, pretty good, thanks. Nice to see you, Johnny.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there.
Got everything
Yep.
figured out, huh? Good
Oh,
to
no,
go. Excellent, excellent. Glad to have you with us.
thanks. Glad to be here. Looks like the both of us are outside. Rich is
Oh
the
yeah,
only one
yeah.
indoors.
I can change the
And
background so
just
it looks like I'm outside.
Yeah. You can do that. Digital creator, right? We get a
Yep.
lot of those that are out there in the forums too.
yeah. Just before we start, when you start talking, if you see me, my picture go away or whatever, I'm doing that because somebody's buffering, and I try to kick myself off. That way, it doesn't take away the bandwidth. So
Oh, okay,
if you see me disappear, don't worry about it. I'm in
okay,
the background somewhere.
all right.
Yeah, so me and Ernie, God, it's been a while since the first time I spoke to you, and
Yeah,
we've gotten the opportunity to talk a couple times and stuff, and so you're a very interesting guy, and
thanks.
oh yeah, you're a good guy, and people I've spoken to said you're a good guy, so yeah, hopefully everybody's telling me the truth. you know, I,
Hopefully,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
nice.
no alcohol was involved.
Right.
No alcohol was involved.
Yeah, you
So
already
how
got
did you get
me.
all involved in all this?
Myself? How did
Yes,
I get
sir.
involved with it?
Mhm.
Well, because of my encounter, a lot went on there. I think it took me over 35 years. I just really wanted to speak to somebody on
Right.
what had happened. It seemed like, even to me, it seemed like it was just way out there, because I would watch certain things, I just wouldn't make any comments. And even 35, 38 years ago, whatever, they just had tracks, and they were saying things that they're still saying now. It's almost 50, 40 years, and they're still
Right.
stuck on tracks. So I seen the bullying that was going on, the harassment of some of the eyewitnesses, and some of those eyewitnesses, I knew they were telling the truth, because at that time there wasn't really anybody out there that could actually, if they were faking it. One of the biggest things that they said, and I hate to put this out there, is fur. As soon as I hear fur, I'm out of there. I don't need to hear any more. So anyways, I finally found a guy, one of his shows, Larry Batson, Larry the Animal Guy, and I said, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to watch this guy. I'm going to listen to him. He was the host, and I said, if there's anybody that's going to understand what I seen, it's got to be an animal guy, okay? Because you're dealing with behavior and everything else. So I sent him a message, and lo and behold, he contacted me back, and we had many long discussions. And then he asked me if I wanted to be on his show, and I convinced him on a few things, like sketch artists. Okay, I think he was one of the first people out there to start doing that. And so that's basically how I got started. And like I just said, it was because I was watching all these eyewitnesses, and I said, why have I sat back for 35 plus years in praying, and I literally did, that somebody would come out with something similar to mine, if not the same exact thing, and I'd lock elbows with them. And then I just really started realizing that was not going to happen. That nobody
Yeah.
was going to stand out there, because you lost Mary Green, you lost Janice Carpenter, you lost a whole bunch of people. They had really pertinent information in every story just about that I listen to. I hear something that's research valuable, right?
Right.
And you need to take that bias and just toss it out the window. You got to keep it in check every time it creeps back up on you, like a monkey on your back. And that's what people fail to do. There are some really good researchers out there that I know of, that they're now working on behavior, which is mind-boggling on some of the things that are going on. But
Give us
I
some
decided,
real quick. Give us some examples of people that are doing that.
Randy Harrington, uh, um, Jason Miller. I think here really quick. I was just talking to a good friend of mine from Ohio, Bigfoot researchers there. Forgive me. I'm just having mind things missing here on
Well, I'll
names
put you on the
right now.
spot too. So
Yeah. No, that's okay. That's just to name a few. It'll come back to me, and I'll throw them a kudo out there. Trust me. But
all
there are
right.
some really good ones. And while you're looking at Banter, Richie, and Wojo, okay, is we talk a lot, and they started doing some of these things. JJ Messenger, he's another one that's out there. Um, temporarily missing, okay, because he himself has been moved and had to sell his house, so he lost the area that he was doing research in, basically with me via the telephone and everything, in the Cobble Mountain region area. That's where I had my encounter, and his background was in the spiritual thing, like exorcisms. He worked with the Warrens. So we did a lot of talking on that alone,
Hmm.
and trying to find connections going on there on what this could be, what that could be. You mentioned a few names yourself, and one of them particularly kind of scared me a little bit. I've seen the films and everything, and I'm like, if that's not a demon, I don't know what is. And it could be. I mean, I'm not afraid of these forest people. I like to call them forest people, but that's because I could see them. I could touch them, and other people have. Spirits scare me. because you can't fight. There's no way to
Right.
fight. But anyways, that's what I did is I decided that I was going to put myself out there and use my real name on there and hopefully draw some of the real eyewitnesses out, and it has, and in doing that, I've also changed the communities a little bit. Probably maybe they don't recognize it, but they recognize me and they recognize the podium that I stand on, and maybe they see the effect that it had on me, because it has been a lifelong effect on me, lifelong. I know
Can
for
we
a
go?
fact that. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can we go back to the very beginning and you tell us about your very first sighting and how all this got started for you?
Sure. You want me to keep it brief because it's quite lengthy. I can shorten it up just a little bit.
And whatever you feel comfortable with, man.
Right.
It's all about you tonight. So
Thanks. I was an avid hunter. I hunted a lot with my brother, my father, my great uncle. My great uncle and my father taught us how to hunt, and it was mainly my brother and I that would go off and hunt when we weren't with a hunting party. And once in a while, I would go by myself, or he would go by himself, because we couldn't link up. And one of my spots that I would go to was the Cabo Mountain region. I would always pick a spot that uh, nobody else would go to. I would scout the areas. I would go in deep enough, until I wasn't seeing any more trash or anything like that. So that's how I wound up in the Cabo Mountain region, and it was steep in history up there, and it still is to this day. There's a lot of sightings up there, and finally they've come out, and I've heard a lot up around that area. We got the Vogel brothers, Tim and Eric, great researchers that are working that whole area also. But even though that I had heard some stories and read some stories in the newspaper, I decided I was going to hunt the top of one of the mountains, Drake Mountain. And I was in there. I was going in by myself. For the people that hunt out there back in the day, we didn't have the GPS or anything like that. And no, I did not have a cell phone on me. And even if I did, I don't believe back then that you could take pictures at the time. And believe me, that's the least thing on your mind. To put it into context, that if you're out there hunting elk or whatever, and a grizzly bear bum rushes you, the last thing on your mind is to pull your camera out of your pocket and take a picture of the bear. All right. A lot of people think that I'm speaking because I'm just uh, full of myself or whatever, but that's just a fact. That's the way that those things happen. That being said, as I knew, I did my homework on the topography of the area. I marked off on my maps where the deer were feeding, where their deer runs were, where they were leaving scrapes, ruts, everything else in the area, water sources. And that morning, I knew for sure that I was going to come up from the Cobble Mountain side where Granville Reservoir is and go up Drake Mountain. And there was a special spot up there where some big boulders up there, and I had found sign that they were bedded down previous to that morning's hunt in between all them boulders. So I figured my best chance would be to try to get up into there, be as quiet as I possibly could. The wind was in my favor. It was blowing down at me, and it was really crispy out that morning. So there was a little bit of frost on the ground. But as I got a lot closer, because in Massachusetts you're carrying a shotgun, so it's effective range. You could shoot at 100 yards with a slug in it if you're decent, anyways. But the closer you are, the better you are. Almost like bow hunting, just a little bit better. But as I got closer, they jumped up, and you can hear any hunter out there will understand this. That when a deer jumps up, it's a lot different than maybe a grouse taking off or a rabbit taking off or anything like that taking off. They stomp, they jump, and it proceeded to go straight up the side of that hill. And my road that I was on was like an old fire road, farm road, or whatever you want to call it. Actually part of what they called Unkeman's Path, and it paralleled where they were headed. So I decided, well, I'll take my chance and I'll try to, you know, parallel them, but get out in front of them, which is a difficult thing to do. But that was my only chance. And I knew that the point that I wanted to get to is where there was the path veered off. It did a dog leg back down the other side of Drake Mountain. And I knew they were headed towards, there was a beech nut grove on one side of that stone wall. And my objective was to get out in front of them without scaring them away from me and getting to a spot on my side of the stone wall. So they really, might not suspect that I'm there. They can't smell me or anything. And then maybe they'll slow down. I did it. And for the people out there, is the way that if you're a hunter, you might understand this, is once you've been had, maybe, or if you're sneaking in, you don't want to walk bipedal. You don't want to walk heel toe, because you're going to crunch everything up and you sound like a human being walking through the woods. So I was trying to be as quiet as possible and going toe heel in there. So now I'm going to, if they do hear me, I'm going to sound like a four-legged animal. I get out in front of them, which I was very happy of. Just as I rounded the first part of that dog leg, I'm looking at that area. I'm making sure there's no squirrels in there, turkeys. I don't want anything in there that's going to alert them that I'm there. There wasn't anything. There wasn't anything there. So I set up, so I was facing that stone wall. So they would, when they came forward, they would come over that stone wall right towards me. Even if they split up, I was going to get a clear shot, because on my side of the stone wall, there was some pine trees. There's big old growth pine trees. So they were tall and they were spaced out pretty far. So I knew my chances were excellent. Setting up right there at that point, I noticed movement on my 9 o'clock, right about my 9 o'clock, at about 30, 35 yards out. So you don't want to move too much. So I just moved my head just a little bit so I could get my peripheral right over there. And sure enough, I see something that's appeared to be laying down next to a tree. So I'm thinking at that point that because it's early, I'm thinking at that point it must be a buck, a deer that's maybe not with that group, because sometimes that buck doesn't travel with that group. They do, but they're off to the side. They're not right directly involved with them. They're waiting for a female or to come through or whatever. So now it has my focus, but I'm still, for those people out there, I'm not taking my total focus off of those deer that are supposed to be on the other side of that stone wall that were coming at me. I'm trying to remain cognizant of them and whatever it is that's laying down next to that tree. So I got my shotgun up, but I'm still crouched down. I'm figuring that's probably a deer, because I can't see its head. It's on the other side of that tree, away from me. And it started to get up a little bit, Now I hear the deer, so I've got to shift my eyes back, because if they spot me, then I'm in trouble. I'm going to get one or the other right there, and that's the way that it just lays out. Well, it started scrunching up towards the tree a little bit, so it looked a lot heftier than a deer. And now I'm thinking, this thing's a bear. This thing could quite possibly be a bear, because it's actually scrunching right up to the tree. And I'm like, I don't have a permit for a bear, but if there's a cub if I missed the bear, I probably missed the cub too. So maybe there's a cub in here, and maybe it came out of a tree or something. I don't want it bum rushing me. So I've got more concentration on it, and now it gets up a little bit more, but it's basically almost hugging that tree. And now I'm looking at it and I'm saying to myself, that's another person. There had to have been a guy laying there that I missed or something, another hunter. And he was here early in the morning, waiting for the sun to come up, and he doesn't know I'm here. He's got his head around the other side of that tree, and I know he's looking right over at stone wall because I can hear the deer. I'm looking back over towards the deer, figuring, okay, this is a hunter. I'm assessing my position that he doesn't know I'm there. If them deer come over that stone wall and they come between us, I'm going to get shot. He's not going to get shot because I know he's there, but I'm definitely going to get shot. And people in Massachusetts have a bad habit of carrying buckshot in their shotguns. So there's pretty much no way that he's going to miss me. I'm probably going to get hit with one pellet anyways. So I made a decision at that point to move up just a tiny bit. I'm still squatched down a little bit, but I'm moving up just a tiny little bit so I don't totally give away my position. So that if he does poke his head around my side, he's going to catch me in his peripheral, and that ought to settle that situation right there. Well, he's in the process of standing straight up, and that's at the point right there that I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking to myself, he's got no orange on. And sorry to tell the audience out there, but there was many times that I went in with no orange on. Okay, so I'm figuring that he's just as crazy as me. So he's in there with no orange on, and now he's standing straight up, and he is big. I'm looking for something on the tree, maybe a twig or a piece of moss or whatever, because I'm trying to measure him off. This is a very large man. I've met some very large people. I've worked with them. I found a piece of moss on there. And I said, okay, I got that piece of moss. At that point now, he's standing totally up against that tree, his head on the other side of that tree, facing away from me, and all heck broke loose on the other side of that stone wall. I'm hearing boulders clacking. I'm hearing not branches, but like limbs, just limbs snapping. And I'm hearing where it sounds like for those people out there that have ever punched a punching bag, a heavy bag, okay, it makes a thunk noise, and that's what I'm hearing. And I'm kind of getting the impression there that there's something really bad going on here, say at stone wall. That's when he put his head around my side of the tree. And it was pretty much at that point right there that I knew for absolute certain that this was not another hunter. This was definitely not another hunter. I never believed in these things. I thought that I seen the Patty film. I said, well, there's probably one. I think it was every little boy's dream growing up that, hey, maybe someday you'll get to see something like that, or a pterodactyl or a dinosaur. It was the furthest thing from my mind, you know. But he was looking directly over that stone wall. Now I'm concerned, you know, but he looked over at me. He caught me in his peripheral, and he looked over at me. He looked back over that stone wall, and he snapped his head back at me. I mean, snapped it at me, and looked at me dead in the eyes. He's like 30, 35 yards away. And I know for sure what this thing is, because it's not a man. It's not a bear. There's only one thing left on the menu there, and that's got to be a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot. Yes. He still holding on with his left arm on that tree, and he's got his right foot out, right leg out, and he swung that left leg around that tree, and he broadsided me. He stood directly facing me, and I got my 12 gauge pointed right at his chest, right at him. I don't know what's going to go down. I don't know what's going to happen here. I have no knowledge of these things, you know. And of course, you get a lot running through your head, you know. I was just totally taken aback at that, and he did something that just blew me away. He took both his hands and put them out in front of him, not straight out, just below the shoulders, about chest level, elbows bent in, and he put him out, fingers to the sky, thumbs close in, and he pumped them twice at me. I don't know what anybody else would do, you know, and then just keep it to yourself. I don't think there's any real heroes out there like this. You know, where would I shoot him? the obvious place would probably be wrong. I don't know. And it seems to me he's trying to communicate with me, like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm trying to understand what's going on here. So I started lowering my shotgun and he started taking steps forward towards me. And he started making hand signals, more hand signals towards me. And that was a bit concerning because I thought the first hand signal was off the chart. And he pointed at me. He pointed directly to my chest. He didn't point to my head. He didn't point to my gun. He knew what the gun was. He knew what it was. I also carried a sidearm on me. I didn't know if he could see it or not. I kept it sort of concealed, but he pointed pointed finger towards me, fist closed, right to the center of my chest, and then he pointed one finger towards himself to the center of his chest. I'm still trying to suck this in. I'm totally, what am I going to do here? What's going on? Am I going to have to parlay hand signals back to him? He proceeds to come closer to me, and it appears to me he's winning me over. I'm not intimidated as much anymore. I can feel all that type of concern leave me. It was more peaceful than anything that I can tell anybody, and I've been around for a long time, and I've heard a lot of eyewitnesses, and there's good ones and bad ones out there. Quite obviously, it was a good one, fortunately for me. Well, I knew around that point that they were hunting the same deer as me. He was set up on an ambush or whatever, because he made another hand signals towards me. Every time he made a hand signal, he stopped and he looked at me and he cocked his head a little bit at me. Like, do you get it? You understand? The hand signal he made to me was elbows in. Arms at the waist, so your elbows are bent. Palms down, equal to your shoulders, not way out wide, right there. Palms down. I'm trying to come up with an idea on what he's trying to tell me. And then he turns his palms up. Now I'm getting it. Now I'm feeling the sense that they have no food, or he has no food, and they're looking for food. So that's a hand signal that I definitely did understand there. And I really have it in my head now that they're hunting the same exact deer as me. He proceeds to get closer to me, and he does another hand signal. He points over my left, he points over my right. Same hand, same right hand. Pointer finger, like, where did you come from? I can understand that because he snapped his head at me. When he looked over at stone wall, he caught me in his peripheral, and he looked at me, looked back, and he snapped his head back like, where did you come from? So that's what I'm thinking that is, where did you come from? That was later interpreted better for me by a man by the name of Chief Ernest. And you've all heard the name. I've posted that picture of him. I've had the honor to sit with that man and speak with him for quite a while, right before the powwow started, full of information. Well, after he did that, he's walking closer to me. And now he's extremely close to me. And just so you know how close he was, he put his hand out in front of the two of us, palm up, and so that I could just look down and see his palm, like almost like gifting or whatever, but he put his palm out and he pointed towards his palm. Now I'm a little concerned more. I don't know what's going to happen here. I know that my shotgun is ineffective. It's completely down. I'm trying to be clandestine and move my hand to my sidearm. Well, I'm watching him. I used to be involved heavily in martial arts. I'm watching body movement. I'm watching shoulder, waist. I'm trying to get the whole scope in. You watch at a certain spot on the body. And he was way taller than me. I'll tell you in the end, he was way taller than me. I came up just above his bicep, but below his shoulder. I'm 6'3". He had to go well over 400 pounds, 500 pounds. But my right hand was just almost getting a purchase on my sidearm, where my palm was just touching the grip on my sidearm, and he picked it up. He's seen that movement. He knew what I was going for, and he really didn't really like it, because what he did next was he took that same finger that he pointed to his palm, and he tapped his palm like 2 times. He tapped his palm. Now, okay, he's got my undivided attention there. He wants me to look at his palm. So I did. And I'm looking for abnormalities on his palm. I'm looking what is it on your palm that you want me to see? Well, everybody's about the same as our palms. His fingernails were clean. His hair would appear to be black. Now I was picking up in the sunlight through the trees, where it looked like I don't know, the bottom part of the hair looked like it had a little bit of a reddish tint to it. It was only about maybe 5 inches long. Where we have hair on our forearms, they have hair on our forearms, exactly the same. This one did anyways. Okay. You look at the back of your hand, or a man's hand, where you don't have any hair on your knuckles, or you shouldn't. Okay. He didn't. Exactly the same as ours, but bigger. I was looking for abnormalities in the palms itself, on lifelines or headlines. I didn't see a headline on there. That was pretty much it. I think he understood that I had a good look at it, and I decided what I was going to do at that point, and he did not smell at all, is I was going to parlay some of that sign language back to him. And I had no food. I chose the finger pointing to the chest. That was equal. Masters of the Woods, brothers. And then to his own chest. He recognized me, and he pointed to me first, which is the way that it should have been done. You don't point to yourself and walk into a bar, point to yourself and look at the angriest person drunk in the bar and point towards them. I'm pretty sure they'll get the message that you want them. Okay, no, he had it in reverse. That's the way I understood it. That's the way that Chief Ernest explained it to me also. Then I pointed up over his shoulders, trying to figure out, well, where did you come from? I mean, maybe he's going to try to communicate with me more. During all of this, there was a lot of activity on the other side of that stone wall. It's not like they came out of the trees. Yeah, I say up until about maybe 8, 9 years ago, nobody out there. I used to hear people and talk to people, and they don't get in trees. Yeah, baloney. They do get in trees. I got news for you. You'd be surprised how much a branch can hold when you get close to the tree, in the nook of that branch. Particularly if it's a limb, not a branch, I should say, a limb. But it was at that point that he turned partially towards that stone wall, and he let out 3 whoops, second and a half, something I'm fairly decent at. I'm telling you, not just how many shots I fired, but how long it was in between each shot. He let out 3 whoops, holding his hands up to his mouth like a megaphone, like you would, like that. And it was like you went to the zoo and you heard a lion roar. It was absolutely amazing. I have no words to describe that to anybody that's listening. You can't understand it unless you go down there to where there's lines and you stand right near them, and you hear them roaring. You can feel that reverberate on you. That's what I heard. And I knew that he was trying to communicate with the other ones on the other side of that stone wall. And he looked at me again, and he bowed his head towards me like that, like out of respect. I felt respect when he did that. And he looked back over that stone wall and he whistled. And y'all never heard anybody say they've seen him whistle. That's what I waited for all my life. I can't be the only one out there, but I was. Now you all know they whistle. You all know that they whoop. You know that it's them. Up until then, all you had was a meow, and a dog walked out of the brush. So you thought you never seen a dog before. You probably thought that the cat made the meow. Now you know they whistle and they whoop like that. That whistle was identical to human beings. That's what sent me on my journey right there. Is they've got to be able to talk. They must be able to. They have the ability to whistle like that. And he looked back at me, and well, he made another hand signal towards whomever, whatever, the other side of the stone wall. When he whistled, and he did his hand signal like, "You go that way, meet me over there." And that's, like I said, that's when he looked at me and bowed his head, and he turned and he left. He didn't run. He just walked away, and it was very fluid. He walked back towards that tree, direction of that tree, in a straight line, out to probably about the 55-yard mark. And he turned to face towards me, a little bit towards that beech nut grove. And I heard what sounded like a rhinoceros coming through those woods, those saplings and stuff over there. It was a racket. And I knew what was happening. I knew there was another one, maybe even more, that were going over there to meet him. So that's where my focus went. And I could see a flash of what appeared to be brown, like a cinnamon color. And as it broke that side of the dog leg, there's a brook on the other side of the dog leg. It was a little bit of a clearing where I could see. It was definitely another one. And this thing was fast. This thing could outrun a deer piece of cake. It was very fluid, fast. It was like, I don't know if they used the trees to sling themselves off when he came through them saplings to pick up speed, but he was moving. He was trucking right to the other one, the big one there. He got over to that one there, got over to the big one. And because I don't know if it was a male or female. No, I can tell you that the one that was next to me was a male without checking him out. I didn't want to go there because he didn't have memories. Okay, so male, we're going to go to male. Very, very human looking, which I'll describe in a while, or maybe Richard Johnny will ask me. Okay, but they proceeded to have a little conversation. And what I gathered from all of that was, because of what he did, the big one did, as he kind of ended that conversation, he pointed directly towards me, like ratting me out, like explain what that is over there. Explain who that is over there. Like, how did I get by you? How did you allow this man to get by you? And he looked at me, looked back at the big one, and snapped his head right back at me. Like, he couldn't believe I was standing over there either. It was at that point that the big one, and I guess it was for my benefit, because he could have just told them in the whatever language they were speaking, because I could hear them even at 55 yards away, 55 yards away. I could hear them. He pointed to that other one, and he told him to basically do like a semicircle around to my right. And he pointed to himself, and he used his other arm like he was going to go to my left. Now, again, I'm a little bit worried because up until that point, I wanted to know more. This team was pretty friendly. I wanted to know more. I was going to follow them. I was going to see, where do you live? Where do you go? Do you go underground, behind a boulder? What, live in trees and nests? What do you do? I was very intrigued. But because of that, I felt intimidated. So I decided that what I needed to do at that point is I needed to go get look at that piece of moss on that tree and find out how high up he was. And of course, when I walked up to that tree, I turned around and put my hand on my head on the tree. That doesn't work. Okay. So I had to turn back around and face the tree, get right up to that tree, put my hand on the tree, and then step back a little bit, see where my hand was, see where that piece of moss was, and then measure up with my hand. I was a butcher. I just retired, but I measured up with my hand. It was 7 foot 8 inches that I measured up. So my next move was to see if I could find a footprint. Well, there was a little knoll there. My idea is the reason why I never seen anything there to begin with, and why it was laying on the ground, because it came up that little knoll. He never seen me. He was focused as an ambush point. That if anything came over the stone wall, he was going to take it up. He was going to go after it. Obviously, he was the biggest one, because that cinnamon colored one was a little bit above his shoulder, which was still above me. Okay. I couldn't find a footprint next to the tree. That right off that little knoll looked like an old vernal pool. Had a lot of ferns in there, but I could see where they were pressed down where he went through there. So I decided what I was going to try to do is match that up with the height off the tree by taking the stride length. So I stood right basically where I figured he launched himself kind of off to run over there, and where I seen the ferns on the other side push down, and I fell short of that. So I got back just a couple, I don't know, not even a foot, and decided I was going to really try to launch myself off of there and see where I would land on that. I still fell short. So I backed up and took a little bit of a run to start, and I fell short. So I knew that it had to be well over 6 feet. So it had to match up with that 7 foot 8 inches. And he did it in ease. He wasn't running, he wasn't bounding, he was just not speed walking. It was like it was his normal everyday walk of life, just going out in that direction, which it kind of matched up for me. After that, I decided that I kind of needed to get out of there. You know, I did not go back down the way I came up, because I'm thinking that other one, I don't know what they have in store. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how many more there are. I'm getting out of there down the steep side of Drake Mountain. That's where I'm going. I figured it'd be my best bet, because there's plenty of big trees that I can get up against or in back of. If they wanted to get me, it was pretty much open area. They would have to come down that hill, and I got my shotgun. I don't know what's going on. You know, I'm actually, I guess the rush or whatever kind of left me, and I didn't want to put myself into a situation where, you know, you have all that adrenaline leaving your body. I just wanted to get out of there. It was too mind boggling. You know, I could have had he been at that tree and spotted me and just took off, I could have probably gone to the local bar and got myself a couple of drinks that I seen a Sasquatch at the time, Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Get myself a couple of drinks, and everybody would have called me names or whatever. But no, he had to make life very difficult for me. You know, extremely. Okay. And it, all in all, it's still to this day, you know, it's leaving me a little bit now that I've moved down here, and I've been kind of in the dark mode because the internet service and everything else for like 30 days, you know, so I haven't had to deal with any forums, which, yeah, it's something that I'd like to probably get away from a little bit. I like to deal with the real researchers that are out there that have really, no matter how bizarre some people may think that it is, it's not. It's not. These beings are extremely smart. You know, I think it was Todd Gateway just put out a thing in Bigfoot Quest magazine called Blue-Eyed Squatch. The connection between us, our blue eyes, and because I seen one, the one I seen had blue eyes. He had blue eyes, he had the brow ridge, dark skin, it matched up perfectly with his hair. You know, at a distance, I couldn't tell where the hair started on his face and where the hair really ended on his face. But as he got closer, I could see more of it. Right where we have hair, hair. You know, what people can't imagine is when you like Richard was saying earlier. You know, try to describe your mother to an artist without her being there, and see what they can do for you. You know, think about that for a little while. It's very difficult. So when you hear somebody say they're ape like, what was ape like about them? What was it? You picked out one feature and our bias took over or whatever took over and said, well, I need a word. What's the one word I have in my vocabulary? Ape like. I thought that, and how am I going to describe this particularly to Larry? You know, it was difficult. You know, it was even difficult for him to do this. And the skin tone, how do you describe the skin tone? The skin tone, what I describe to people is not black, but dark, 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 dark brown. If you were to look at human beings, it would be like dark, like Jamaican dark, very, very dark. You have some that are lighter. You have, and I'm not trying to uh, say anything about any group of people. I'm using it for a reference point for people to understand. Okay, the nose. Well, no, it was slightly flatter than our own, like mine. More like maybe he had been in a few boxing matches and a little bit wider. That's the best way I can describe that. Everything was body proportionate on him. I seen the wrinkles on his face, you know. Um, some of the things it was just so difficult.
Now,
Go ahead.
quick question: the initial one that you came in contact with that was doing
Yeah,
the hand signals. Do you think that he
yeah.
was like much younger than the bigger one?
No, the first one that walked over to me was the big one.
Oh,
Okay,
so he was
and
the
he,
bigger one.
yeah, the one that walked over towards me was the bigger one. He, I believe that he was probably the alpha. He was coordinating the whole thing. That's
Right.
why he called the other one over. The second one was cinnamon colored, and I couldn't be for certain if that was a male or female. I at that distance I really couldn't see the face, so I can't describe you if they were relatives or what was going on there. Only that they knew each other obviously, but that one there was above his shoulder, still shorter than him, but above his shoulder, not as tall as him. So I put that one there at probably maybe 6 foot 8, 9, 10, somewhere's around there. You know, bigger than me, that's for sure.
Right. Can you re-describe or show us that initial hand signal that he gave you?
Sure, sure. Just like that. Thumbs right into the palms, fingertips pointing directly towards the sky, palms directly facing me. And he pumped them 2 times at me. And it wasn't stretched out. Okay. And it wasn't hyper exaggerated. All right. He didn't, like he was a cheerleader. He just like it
Right.
was whoa, whoa.
Man, that must have just blown your mind to see something that looks like that, but then to make human
Yeah.
motions like that,
Well,
that must have
yeah.
just been crazy.
Yeah. I think what kept me on a calmer level was the fact that since I had no knowledge of them, that this must be what they do. You know, it just, it's not in the mainstream media or anything like that. Not that I really followed the mainstream media at all back then, but I had no knowledge of them. I figured this was something that they do, and yeah, lo and behold,
That's
and people blow it off to this day. They don't think they do, but yet they leave glyphs. We're stuck on footprints. For how long? 50 years plus stuck on footprints. Okay, you got a footprint. Now you know.
right.
It's like finding a road. The road goes to a town. You're lost. What are you going to do? Are you going to just not get off that road ever and stay on that road and just keep walking even though you walk by a town? Or structures? You know, there is research out there that people do have a really good idea what those structures are. And the X's and the glyphs, the glyphs are mind boggling. They're definitely trying to communicate with you, but as you spoke a little bit earlier before I came on the show, on the spiritual aspect, are they spiritual? It seems that they are very attracted to people who are spiritual. You got to look at it like you're Quasimodo. You know that people don't like looking at you because you're scary looking. Are you going to walk over to a little kid like that? You're going to scare the heck out of that little kid. They don't want to be found because my belief, we are warlike. We cannot be trusted. We will throw one of our own kind under the bus faster than lightning. That's what we are, and I believe they know that. They used to trade with the Native Americans, and I've got a lot of friends that are Native Americans. I'm Native American, so there's things that you hear that they they're all saying in there. Chief Ernest, you know, um, he referred to me as the man who walked in two worlds. He said you obviously they mistook you for something else. They never seen you, and the only thing I can think of is the way that I don't usually speak about this is the way that I walked up that road, what I was trying to do. So
Now,
I guess go ahead.
I have a. I'll put it up here. It's in my media here. I'm going to put up a picture and just using it as a reference.
Yeah.
See if it's close to what you saw. Because I use this. I created it by taking people's accounts and taking
Yeah.
different reports and
Yeah.
all the interviews that we do and stuff like that. And I put all that in. It was a lot. I was writing all this stuff down
Yeah.
and put it in AI and said, okay, take this information and create the image that they're describing and stuff. And this is the picture it came up with. So, just like you said, it's not going to be perfect, but to
Right.
everybody's what everybody saw, I get it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but it's a basis to say the majority of people and what they've come up with and how it blends. Um,
Yep.
to at least give us a basis. So let me put that up there.
Yeah. That's really close. The head wasn't conical like that. It was more rounded. But yeah, that's pretty close. That's pretty darn close. I took a picture myself. Well, I have a picture on my files that one of the pictures that Larry Bassman was working on that never got finished. So I tried to add tint to it and this and that. And the funny thing is that I noticed on it as I added tint to it or color to it, it changed. Same picture, but it totally took on another look. And it may be hard for some people to understand, but I'm going to put this into context for you. One of the things that you have in your mind is fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
You put that fear factor in there. Now let's put in uncanny valley. Now that you have uncanny valley, you must understand that the average eyewitness encounter is between, what is it, 6 and 11 seconds long. You have 6 to 11 seconds to describe a complete stranger. And now you got uncanny valley in there. That means that your mind can't accept anything that looks human-like. If you've seen a lamb with the head of a human on it, you'd be like, your mind's trying to protect you, is what it's doing. So by me taking that picture and adding tint to it, that's all I did. And as it got darker or lighter, it totally changed. It looked like a different picture. If I put them all in line and covered them up one at a time and said, tell me which one would look more like, people would pick one of those pictures. But they're all the same one.
Right.
Okay. What you have there is, yes, they look very caveman-y. Okay. Dysnovian. Okay. They look part like a Native American too, like the high cheekbones in them. And then you,
Right.
of course, have a little bit of that look because of the skin tone in every way of another group. So it's difficult. The longer that you have you're subjected to a situation, the more time you have to suck in that information. 5 seconds to 11 seconds is not very long, not very long at all. In considering that, like a Class A in the BFRO is what, 40 to 50 yards away. How much are you identifying, and how much are you actually able to tell somebody how tall it was in that amount of time at that distance? I couldn't see that. It totally changed as it walked towards me. I'm now able to pick out blue eyes. I'm now able to see where the skin and the hair, where the hair was light. It looked like it was a lot more hair, but it wasn't. Okay. Very caveman-y looking. Extremely, extremely fit. Extremely fit.
Now,
I don't
when
know
you
if
were
that.
talking about,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, you're buffering on my end a little bit. So if I interrupt you, I apologize.
Sorry.
And I also got kicked off too, so I may ask you something you already answered. But
Good.
when you're talking about these, I mean these hand and arm signals that this thing is doing is by far one of the most interesting things I've ever heard when it comes to a sighting story like this. Now, you said that you talked to, I guess, a Native American elder that
Yeah.
you went through these hand motions with him, and he
Yes.
went and he explained to you that each one of these were
Yes.
actually a Native American hand and arm signal.
He didn't say they were Native American. I looked up Native American hand signals from all over the country. Okay, he didn't
Right.
he didn't say that. He understood them. If you look up like maybe the Pawnee or in the Shawnee and the Sioux, they had their own sign language, but in each one of their own sign languages, they had signs that were similar to the other one, so they could understand each other.
Right.
They could say, okay, that there's horse, our horse is like that, but your horse is like that. So they understood that. There's videos out there on that. No, he did. He's a great grandson, I believe, of Sitting Bull.
Wow,
And,
that's
and
pretty neat.
it was, yeah. I look back on it, and it was like things happen for a reason, I guess. But he explained that to me, and a few other things to me, and I see that in the community. People who want to say woo or whatever. We don't know everything that they can do, and I can assure you that if you had a DB, you'd only know maybe a little bit more about its DNA. You'd know about what it had to eat for dinner. You know where its heart was, its lungs, things like that. But like the pirates used to say, dead men tell no tales. You wouldn't know anything else. Now, the language
Right.
that I heard, it was, I don't know how long afterwards. It wasn't long afterwards. I mean, I was just like if you watched Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I was just trying to draw myself so I wouldn't forget, and throwing them in the basket. But um, I just had a little brain thing going on there. I forgot my point I was making there.
You were talking about close encounters and drawing it yourself, trying to
Yeah,
figure out just so you
yeah,
could remember.
yeah. Just so I could keep it fresh in my mind, on everything. I wanted all the details that I could get. One of the things I did was I even checked my watch. I checked my breath as he was walking towards me and stuff to see if it was still blowing at me. Am I seeing it? I remember a plane flying over headed towards Bradley International Airport. I couldn't tell you the exact time anymore, but I can tell you it was like about 10 or 11 minutes after the hour. But as much information as I could possibly gather, it allowed me that amount of time for a reason. you know and if we're to move this research forward, we need to Jane Good all this. She had a lot of brass doing what she did. Okay, we need to study the behavior and the communication, because if one does come out in front of you, what are your options? Okay, it's run away or stand there, faint, or try to communicate. And in communication, you're going to find out whether it's a real bad one or it's a good one. You might be able to calm them down. You there's other eyewitnesses who have seen him use a gesture, but are afraid to talk about it. And some of these people, they hear me and they'll contact me, and I'll talk to them, and they'll tell me their whole story or their testimony, excuse me. And sure enough, there'll be a similar hand gesture in there, or the whistle will be in there. And when I
Well,
ask them about the whistle, they'll describe it.
yeah, because I mean, there's accounts um, from Native Americans that say don't whistle when you're in the woods.
Mm,
You know what I
mm,
mean? Don't do it. You know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
and I think that's kind of bled into our culture because I grew up in the South. I live in the country. I'm not the beachfront Florida guy. I'm in in the woods Florida guy.
right.
And even as kids, we were told, you know, don't scream real loud in the woods and don't whistle. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
right. You're right. Kentucky has their own rules for something like that. And I can understand don't whistle, but if you're going to knock on trees or whatever, understand what you're doing there. If you're going to whistle or whatever you're doing, understand that there. Understand that a deer can whistle. Deer make funny noises too, you
Oh
know.
yeah,
But understand that if you're going to calling a grizzly bear, understand if a grizzly bear shows up, what are you going to do?
right.
There's the thing. If you're going to go ring
But
somebody's doorbell and run away, what do you expect them to do?
yeah, it's the same as I'll tell people all the time is I don't do wood knocks and I don't do vocals.
Right, right,
Um, and I do it for the simple reason is when I'm listening, okay, I'm trying to be as quiet. I want to listen, and
right.
I want them to initiate something. See what I'm saying?
Correct.
Now, if I hear a vocalization, it sounds like I don't know, it's a half a mile away. I'm I'm pretty sure whatever vocalization they did was not for my benefit. See what I'm saying?
Right,
I'm a half a mile away. I just happen to
right.
be where I can hear it.
Logical,
See what I'm saying?
logical.
So I
Yeah,
don't want to do a call back, or I don't
right,
want to do a wood knock or anything, and
right.
disrupt them from whatever they're doing to come to me.
Yeah,
Um, I'm just going to document, and that's what I do. Yeah, and like yourself,
yeah,
like you said, you made a good point earlier, and I've done it too, where I'm doing my research and I'm filming and stuff like that, and I'll take a break from filming and just do a little bit of hiking. And I walked right up on a buck, a nice, good six
right.
point rack.
Yeah,
He had to have been 5 feet from me in this grass when I walked up, and he stood up and took off. If it was anything other than that, let's say, there's no way I would have had time to start rolling again. You know what I mean?
right.
And
Yeah,
it was just so fast. So I try to get in the habit of always filming, just always filming, and either with my chest cam or with whatever I try to run two things at once. But you're right, it happens very quickly.
yeah. It
But
happens quickly, and people have to remember is when you're out there, you really want to be an experiencer because if you want to be a researcher, there's a lot that goes with that. But the experiencer aspect of it, if you're out there, you're hoping for them to make contact with you because you're not going to make contact with them. They don't know if they can trust you yet. Okay, you
right.
probably don't know if you can trust your own self. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, you're right on the money because if they want to be seen or they want to be around, they're gonna come around. You're not gonna
right,
make them. It's a lot
right,
like Johnny. Johnny goes out, he has a sitting spot, and he sits there, and they come to
yeah,
him, and they'll
right.
toss something, or they'll move something, or they'll break something, and it lets
Exactly.
them know that they're there. And I say that all
But
Yeah,
the
that took
time.
that took
Yeah, go ahead,
six
John.
years.
Yeah.
It
right.
took
Takes a
six.
long time.
It took, and I've said this since day one. I started out very aggressive because I thought I was dealing with people. And once I realized what I was dealing with, I made a decision that day to not be aggressive anymore. And
Yeah,
then, I did a little bit of chasing, trying to go out there and do it my way. But things changed when I just allowed them to come to me and when I gave up control. And then it turned into, I think it was just years of them realizing that I wasn't going to at least try to hurt them is the only thing I can figure. And like I said, it took, I mean, 6 years of every night being on this front porch, waiting for something to happen or being in the woods or whatever. So
yeah.
I definitely
You're
think it comes
spot
down to
on.
trust.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
spot on that.
Yeah, I'm one of the ones that always tells people that at nighttime, I think it defeats the purpose tromping through the woods at night trying to locate these things. I've had encounters, and it's always been in my campsite when I'm relaxed. I'm laying down, things are quiet, um, and I'm a big believer that if you, even if you're sitting around a campfire just having a conversation or playing the Congo drums or whatever you want to do, I think if you draw interest, they're going to come and they're going to check you out and see what you're up to and stuff like that. During the day is fine because you're looking for signs, you're looking for areas like a hunter. I look at it as a hunter. I'm looking for prints, um, really anything that says this is a viable area. But I use that area to leave equipment. See what I'm saying? I'm not going to prop my tent up right where they tend to congregate because now they're not going to congregate there. Um, but at nighttime, I try to stay in camp or a radius around camp because one, it's dangerous, especially in Florida, being out in the woods at night, tromping through the woods. But I
Yeah,
think we're defeating the purpose because we don't see well at night. We're not quiet at night, and they're going to always stay away from you because they see and hear you perfectly. And so I think night investigations are, not productive. I mean, you'll get vocals, what I mean, but you can still get
yeah,
vocals from camp, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah. They're fun, but you miss a lot. You're at a complete disadvantage with them, and that's like you trying to sneak into my house in the dark and come into my bedroom. They send their sentries out. They know. I mean, Johnny's got it perfectly. It's a state of mind with us. How does a dog know that it can trust a stranger? They know. They can sense that in you.
oh yeah.
You know,
Well, we give off a chemical, when humans, even
right,
humans, when we're scared, we give off that odor of fear. You know what I
right.
mean? You know, um, but when you're smiling and you're laughing and your stuff like that, then that gives off that vibe that you're in a good mood and everything is good. It doesn't. You
Exactly.
can look you can look at a baby, that and go coochie
Right,
coochie coo, and they'll smile. You can go
right,
coochie coochie coo, and
right.
all of a sudden it's got a different look. It's your tone, it's your behavior,
Yep,
and
yep.
so I think a lot of that plays in it. You know what I mean?
It does.
It,
It does. And a lot of people out there are doing the research on the communication on glyphs and things like that. Whatever the forest people do, they do very subtly
mhm.
in hopes. It's like a teacher trying to teach you something, and it's up to you to try to learn what it is, to learn how to manipulate it, to ask a question using the same things that they're using. You have to think about it like a person in a way, but like Scott Carpenter said, in the same aspect, there is something there that if they, for some reason, maybe feel that you can't be trusted or whatever, then things could go asunder. You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
there's a lot of thought in that field, so we'll leave that field right there. But it truly is our next thing is communication, and it's for people to do any of the people out there, even tonight, know any of these things. For most people, they hear a story, and it's a story. It's a bedtime story for them. Okay, my testimony is based on uh, for eyewitnesses and for researchers, something that they can use if they're out there, because they will show themselves like they did with Janice, and they did with Mary, and other people that are out there. They will show themselves. When they do, they know that you will be in full acceptance of them, and then your communication can go from there, because we need to know. I believe that they have something for us, that they can teach us something. Maybe more mushrooms or whatever, crow's garlic, who knows? But there's obviously something there that they are also drawn to, because they have been noted to be around and study people at different locations like Hawken Hills, okay, where they'll actually send the juveniles in to maybe being somebody with an acorn just to see your reaction. And like Johnny was saying earlier, some of these things, they're trying to get a reaction on him if they throw something at him. Is he going to freak out and run? That means that he's scared. And us humans, when we're scared, we're capable of anything. That's the trust issue. We are capable of anything when we are scared. And for some people, try to catch yourself at it. Try to check in your egos and your everything else. When you're out there, be at peace, be at one. They are the masters of the woods. They are one with everything out there. That's why we have a hard time finding them. They go where nobody wants to go and where the majority of us can't go, even if we
Yeah.
wanted to go there.
Well,
When you
never.
were,
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Johnny.
I'm sorry. Again, I
Oh,
got a little bit of a buffer on my end, so it's hard for me to tell when you're talking and not. And that's not y'all's fault. That's my son playing video games, probably. Uh, the with you mentioned Scott Carpenter.
Yes.
Um, from what I remember, Scott wasn't he pretty much sold that these were Nephilim? That's what Sasquatch
Uh,
was.
there's a lot of things out there uh, that people might have picked up. Like I myself, at one time I thought this, at another time I thought that, at another time I thought that. So there might have been at one time that he did, but there was
Right.
something that definitely did scare him.
Right.
Okay,
Well, that's pretty much what I was asking is where do you come down on what the nature of these creatures are?
scientifically, where I am right now, I think I'm around the Ron Moorhead uh, thoughts on this. Um, I think it's something that we lost. We all know that our genes were spliced. Science knows that. You can look it up. Uh, X amount of years ago, and nobody knows how that happened. But if we look up blue eyes and find out where the human blue eyes came from, and we look up the Snovians, blue eyes. Okay, I'm not pointing anybody totally in that direction, but I think that we interbred with them, or they interbred with us, and we lost something when our gene was spliced. Because what do they call that? A junk gene or a stinky gene, something like that, where it was taken out. Maybe that was the gene that was taken out. Who knows? But something happened there. There's got to be an explanation right in there. And what was it that was taken out? There's something that they can do that we can't do. But again, I'm going to have to go back and reiterate on the fact that we won't know that until Johnny sits down, Richard sits down, or maybe perhaps me or a lot of other researchers that I know actually accept the fact that they communicate and learn what it is they have to talk about and learn what it is that they do, what they can do. Once we understand that, then we'll have the answer to the question, Johnny, on who exactly, because there's a
Right.
lot there.
Yeah, I can definitely and this is one of the things that I've heard from a lot of researchers that especially like yourself have been doing this a long time. They start out with just thinking these creatures are just pure flesh and blood. And then the longer they go, the more you start to say, wait a second, something's not right here. I I kind of went the opposite direction, but I always leave. First of all, I always accept the fact that I'm going to be wrong about things. I'm never going
Yeah,
to get things right the first time ever. So
right.
I leave. I I uh, I just leave things open to see what happens, and then just go by what happens, and that's pretty much it. But I've heard that a lot from numerous researchers. It's just odd that
I have.
it keeps going down that road, for a lot of people.
Yeah. How about this? The guy that I work with, I speak with frequently still, JJ Messenger. Okay. He worked with the Warren, so he would be my go-to guy if there was an exorcism that had to be performed, or if there was a haunted building that we had to walk through. He'd be the lead man in that. Okay. So
You'd be on your
here,
own.
yeah. So here's an analogy of this situation. Okay. If a house can be haunted, why can't the woods be haunted? Because the woods were here before the house. Why can't they be? If there's a demon in a house, why can't there be a demon in the woods? if you believe there's a God and you believe there's a Satan, and Satan is going to try to trick you, then don't you think that he'd be pretty good at it by putting one of these things out there, pretending to be good or whatever? You know, could that be the situation? We won't know until we have communication. If it wants to come over and communicate with us, then that's great. Let's take what was it, Daniel Boone? I think it was Daniel Boone that claimed that or Davy Crockett that claimed that the Bigfoot came to him and told him about him dying at the Alamo and not to go there. What is that? You know, are we missing a little bit of part of the history? There's something there that's kind of like intertwined with what we're doing. Is there something that they can do that we can't do? We don't know. Is it supernatural, as Rich explained to me one time? It's supernatural, right, Rich?
Right,
I believe
and that's
it.
what I define it
Yeah.
as. You know, if you got a you know, especially the world strongman competition, and the guy's lifting a freaking car, I can't lift a car.
Right.
So he has super, but it's natural strength. He's a natural, you know,
Exactly.
he's a natural human, but it's supernatural because he's his level is a
Exactly.
lot higher than myself.
Exactly.
And going
I'm gonna
back a little
put
bit,
my light on.
because yeah, sure.
Keep going.
And going back, I think one of the biggest issues is human bias. And when you have a lot of people that'll think that these things are bad, they're evil, or they have ill
Right.
intent, or they're gonna, you know, we do that all the time. We automatically assume things
We
are
do.
always bad. Now, and I tell people all the time, if you do your research and start reading the reports, we've had, I think you're our 27th or something interview. Not one of those people were attacked. See what I'm
Right.
saying? It's always a passive sighting. Okay. And if you go to the BFR, if you go to the Bigfoot Mapping Project and you read these accounts, it's always happenstance and it's always passive. Yeah.
Right.
Johnny is a prime example. He puts himself right in the thick of it, and at any moment they could hurt him, and they don't. See what I'm saying? Now, I'm not saying there's not bad ones. I'm not saying that. There probably are that have, they're just fed up with us. They're tired of us. They're angry at us or whatever. Or, you know, a hunter shot at them and they've got a animosity towards, you know, hunters. I
Exactly.
get that. I get that. And that's learned behavior from what had taken
Right.
place. But I think on the most part, it's a passive sighting. You happen to be walking down a trail. It walked out. It saw you. You saw it, and it moved on its way, and you went on your way. And that's most sightings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to say that when I go out in the woods and I do all my research by myself, that I don't have that level of fear. There is always that little bit of fear in me that something could
Right.
go wrong, and if I do come face to face, something could go wrong. Um, but I always tell myself that the numbers tell me that I'm probably pretty safe. See what I'm saying? And
Yeah. I agree.
I've had close encounters, and I've had things thrown at me, and it was never aggressive. It was more curiosity. You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
that's we're doing this because Johnny's curious. You're curious. I'm curious. And so we have questions that we want answers to. And I think it's the same for them. They're just curious. But I don't think they really are looking or going out of their way to have an interaction. See what I'm saying? I think
Absolutely.
it's about self-preservation and keeping themselves safe and keeping themselves
Listen.
hidden. And but when those interactions do happen, I think they accept it and say, "Okay, listen, I'm not going to hurt you. You're good to go. I'm going this way. You go that way." But like I said, there's going to be those few accounts in which we can't prove any death out there. I don't care if you want to read the 411s or whatever. There is no absolute proof that a Sasquatch annihilated these people. See what I'm saying?
Correct.
And you know, we have a location here that a few years ago, I don't know what year it was. If I remember when I was told the story, it happened in 2017. But it's an area that has 5 sightings a month documented to the FWC. They get 5 sightings a month in this area. And at one point, 2 hunters died on the same weekend, got killed, and they never. Well, they say they got killed. They never found the bodies. 2 hunters that weren't even associated with each other. One was a half a mile over here, and another one was a half a mile that way, or whatever.
Right.
And they never found the bodies. They both died on the same week or disappeared on the same weekend, and they were never found. And and it's a large area, but 90,000 acres can be searched. And but could have one of those guys shot at one? They're hunters, and he saw it. He shot at it, and he created a bad situation for himself. And then that same Sasquatch, a half a mile, which is not that far for them to trike, came across another hunter and said, well, I'm just going to take care of this situation itself as well. But we don't know. We don't know what happened to these men. See what I'm saying?
Right.
And
Right.
but I'm not going to say it didn't happen. That, you know what I mean? Because with anything, there's good and bad. There's always going to be good and bad.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things that go into the behavioral aspect of the research that we, even no matter what animal we take, we can correlate it with something like this and just say, you know, maybe there's a breeding season, maybe it's the feed in that area, maybe it's their territory. Obviously, they have territories. Anybody that's out there, if you haven't come up to that conclusion yet on your X's or anything like that, then take another look at them. They do mark their areas. I'm not saying that's what it is. Just take another good look at it. Leave that bias at the door and start listening. You can only imagine that after all these years, I've been saying these things over and over again, and finally people are picking these up logically. And then I meet you, who's logically thinking, and I personally think that you're spot on something like this. We can't actually say that it's them until a group of people see something like that happen, you know.
Right.
And I hope everybody out there understands that science, you know, there's a lot of couch football coaches. Okay. We have a lot of couch people that are out there in this community right now. And they probably also think, because they think science thinks, they want to look maybe a little smarter than the next guy on the couch, that we need a dead body. Let's put it right out there. No, that's not what science wants. Science wants 2. You just wiped out a family unit. You wiped out a breeding pair, probably, or you wiped out 2 siblings or something like that. And you got no information. You have no more information than what I have, or a lot of these other researchers out there have. Communication. That's why I do what I do, coupled with the fact of the eyewitness, because we need to hear these eyewitnesses. We need to hear every single story. These people that are afraid. A Class A, 50 yards from BFRO. Think about how many people that I've met myself that have had an encounter of less than 10 yards even. That where's the chart on that one there? So who's going to listen to those people when somebody says, how close was this to you? What could you see? A lot. How long did it last? It seems the closer they are. Mine was complete happenstance. This was complete curiosity, I believe, in this one here. This one here was obviously the alpha male. It wanted to know where I came from. That's why it came to me. It wasn't me looking for it. It wasn't me just stumbling upon it in a way. It was happenstance, the whole thing. These things that people want to claim are Sasquatch related, we don't know that. I've seen medical reports that people said, you know, this happened to this person. I've seen the actual medical reports. Wrong. Those are from an animal with teeth. Okay, big teeth, like an alligator or something like that. That's what's going on. What Johnny does out there, that's exactly what it takes. And I know, like Paul Frazier is the guy I was trying to remember. Very good friend of mine. I'm sorry, Paul, but very good guy. Not afraid to get out there. Not afraid to put himself in there. But he has that frame of mind where he's at peace and he's at one with everything out there. And that's what Chief Ernest was talking about. Right. And that's what that you got to have, that frame of mind that you want to, and that's what they can sense about you. Are you trustworthy or not? Well, let's hit him with an acorn, see what he does. You know, is he going to throw a rock back?
Yeah, and I think that's what happens to
that's
Johnny is they'll throw something because Johnny's not paying attention. You know, you're like, "Hey, turn around, dude."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
But
literally been it's been altogether 8 years since it all started, and it's been
wow.
8 years of test. That's all it
Yep.
seems like. And sometimes it's literally just come in, there's a couple objects thrown, and then that's it for 2 weeks. You know, it's I've never, I've honestly never thought I had this amount of patience. Like I didn't even know I was capable of doing this. You know, because it's the
Yeah.
most. It can be extremely frustrating, but that's where it all comes down to is patience and being as unaggressive as humanly possible. And I started out when you talked about the trying to get a body. When I first started out and I was trying to get answers and I hadn't had a sighting yet, I was very impatient and I was locked into this is an animal and I just want answers. Well, I looked into joining one of these groups that
Yeah.
were trying to harvest the body and talking to, I talked to, when I first got started in this, I talked to anybody I could talk to from, you know, the gypsy that thinks they fall from the sky all the way to the guy that wants to take a body,
Yeah.
anybody that would talk to me about it. And then I had the activity seemed, once the intellect part of it, once I started seeing that, started to realize that, like when they're throwing objects that'll land and hit the ground and bounce up, like right under my dog's feet, not throwing objects at my dog, but
Right.
throwing objects to my dog, that's when that's when the switch happened. That's when I was
Yeah.
like, I'm not dealing with just an animal here, and there's no way in the world that I could just go out and try to shoot one. There's just
Right.
not possible because
Right.
there's something more. There's something more to it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're spot on with that.
Yeah. I know of a few cases like we were talking about the woo or spiritual or Nephilim earlier. Is I know of one, anyways. We'll say, yeah, more than one. But anyways, I'll mention this one here. Is things that he thought were being launched sideways, vertically, were actually dropping straight down in front of him. He's seen them drop straight down in front of him, and we all have heard these stories from somebody else before too. That's worrisome. To me, that's worrisome because when you're going to get into the Nephilim and you're going to get into all the woo and everything else, if if you want to deal with spirits, you deal with spirits. I
right,
I would rather deal with what I know on something like this. If things all of a sudden, if I'm sitting here and things are going to materialize on the table in front of me, or drop down marbles are going to drop down into my hands or something like that, I'm out of there. I'm out of there. I don't want anything to do with that. That freaks me right out. Being honest with everybody. Okay, but other people might think it's cute. If you think that's cute, then you can't handle one of these fourth people walking out in front of you, then believe me, you're not going to be able to handle anything like that. That there is, to me, is in another realm. Okay, I believe that that's not anything that people should be messing with.
Well, the same thing with mind speak. That's kind of how I've always uh, kind of looked at that. I don't, I've never experienced it. And used to, I thought it was complete and total, BS. But we've talked about it on here before about the what's that YouTube channel now? The telepathy tapes, where
Oh,
they're doing tests on autistic children and finding
yes,
out that they can communicate with their caregivers or their parents or
hmm
whoever else. And they separate the two. They put the mom in one room and the child in the other. They tell the mom to pick up an apple. She picks up an apple, and then the child draws an apple. They're scientifically proving that this type of stuff exists. But that's one thing that I've always been. Uh, when people start talking about mind speak, my first thought is I don't want anything in my head. Like I don't. That's on a level that I don't. And I'm with you. I don't do spiritual stuff. If it happens, I'll report it. I mean, I've had
Okay.
weird things happen. I've had things that were like what I felt to be religious experiences,
Mhm.
which were life changing, and that all that's great. But like you're talking about, uh, I don't want to deal with those. And if that's
Yeah.
that's just the type of, I'm not into the paranormal or any of that stuff. But sometimes when you
Yep.
go out looking for things, you don't get to pick what you get,
That's right.
because we've got a very complicated world. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
because you're looking for one thing, that doesn't mean that because you have an interaction with something that
Right.
it's the thing you're looking for. It might be
That's right.
something completely different, and you don't
Well,
know
like
what you're opening yourself up to. That's the way I've
yeah,
always felt
Absolutely.
about the mind speak
well,
situation.
yeah, because we've said that in the past where two rights can exist at the same time, but they're not attached to each other.
Right.
There's no bridge between the two. I can see an orb and I can see a Bigfoot. It does not mean they're associated with each other. I'm just seeing two things at the same time. See what I'm saying? It's no different than seeing a
Yeah.
Bigfoot and a UFO. They're
Sure.
they're not associated with each other, and that's where I always draw the line. Is I need that what bridges them together. Does that UFO come over and land and the Bigfoot gets in it and it takes off? Well, I just bridge the two together. See what I'm saying? Or
It,
the Bigfoot opens his mouth and an orb comes out of it and floats away. I just bridge the two together. But like I said, two rights, and we've discussed this in the past. Like I said, can exist at the same time, but have
absolutely.
nothing to do with each other. You know, um, you
Absolutely.
know,
I mean, what Johnny was saying with the autistic experiments or research on that right there. Okay, highly feasible, highly feasible. But let's go back to square one. We won't know until we communicate with them what they have, what they can do. And it appears, I mean, we get research out there that there's a lot in the research field. There's a lot about consciousness and everything else out there. So those two things that are similar, it can be right. They're one and the same. There's a prime example right there. Is I've heard reports of autistic children. They're attracted to autistic children. Is the mind speak there? It could very well be, but we can't live our lives on just that alone. We need to have more people like the Mary Greens and Janice Carter and a whole bunch of them. We need what they were afraid to come out and tell us. How much contact do they actually have? And when one of us has this contact, who who are we going to tell this to? Each other here, you know? That's what I tell people. You're trying to have an experience out there. And remember this, if you make fun of us, you're eyewitnesses. You may become an eyewitness one day, and then you tell me who you're going to go tell. So keep that in mind when you do those things. And the same thing with this here. That is pertinent information. Hand signals, pertinent information. Them whistling, them whooping, them speaking. I never heard that until I heard the Sierra sounds. Nobody could correlate those things together. Nobody knew that. If we keep taking, that's 38, almost 40 years old now when this happened to me. So think of how old that research is. Where could we be? We should be way beyond that footprint. We should be way out onto the point right now is where we are getting valuable information to share with each other. And that's like the Tim Vogels, Eric Vogel, uh, 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 Banter with Richie and Wojo, all of those guys, they're willing to share this information so that people like Johnny and like you can get out there and utilize some of this information. Hey, I never seen that glyph before. All of a sudden now I'm noticing it. Now I'm correlating what all this means. They want to communicate with you. That's all I can tell anybody. They want to communicate. Maybe, and I'll guarantee you, there's a lot of people out there go, no, it's an ape. They can't do that. Really? Well, go tell it to Coco the gorilla, okay, or a few other things on how well animals can communicate with you. Now take a look at something that looks like this, that looks basically like us, and I'm going to just say I think it was us at one time. Why can't they? Tell me why they can't. We need that communication. That's our next move.
Well, like with your encounter, I can grasp um, sign language or some kind of hand signal. I can grasp that.
Hmm.
I can look at that, and there can be some mutual ground made by that. Gorillas have proven that they can
Right,
communicate. And like you said, Coco knew what, like 3,000 words through sign
right.
language, and built relationships with people, especially like Robin Williams, built a
Exactly,
relationship. So
exactly.
I can buy into that, and I think there is emotion because gorillas do have emotion, chimpanzees have emotion, but so do dogs
Yeah,
and cats. They have emotion.
yeah.
I don't get into the mind speak thing because it that falls
Right,
into human bias. You know what I mean?
right.
But I do, and I've always told myself if I come face to face with one, like I said, the first thing I'm doing is put my hands up. Hey, dude, I'm not a
Yeah,
threat. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And I
yeah.
do this mental game with myself when I go in there. One, because of nervousness. Every time I go out, I'm nervous, and not necessarily about Bigfoot. It's just being out in the woods by myself, and if something happens, nobody's going to be able to find me. And but so I try to clear my mind and just concentrate and focus. I do some breathing exercises to calm myself down, any anxiety I might be feeling. If I had a rough week, put it aside. I'm in the woods, you know what I mean? So in my mind, if this thing comes across me, he's gonna know that I'm not a threat. Now I do
Right,
carry a firearm. I do carry a firearm, but it's
right.
hidden. You know what I mean? It's in my chest pouch. You know what I mean? It's not
Yep.
visible. But it's there not for Bigfoot because I absolutely am not going to be the person that's going to shoot one. Um, Even though I think that I understand the argument of having one dispatched for science and stuff like that. I get that, but it's not going to be me. I can tell you that right now. I can't put an argument for or against a dead one. I just can tell you it's not going to be me. You know.
Now, when you're, I'm sure when you definitely look more into these hand signals that they do, this communication. Do you have you correlated that with other sighting reports? Have there
Yes,
been any ones that have been done in different parts of the U.S.? Can you tell us about that?
yes. Uh, the Lingus Berry story is um, has some of that involved in his testimony, his encounter. Where it's actually pointing and using similar sign language to move out in front of him and cross a pathway when he was out hunting. Yep.
Well, there's
There's
also been facial expressions. They'll use
Yep.
facial expressions, show their
Yeah.
teeth, flip their lips back. I've heard all these stories where it's
Yeah.
not just hands; it's
Yeah.
facial. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of it is. Yeah.
You know.
They're you got to figure that's what you would do too if you were trying to teach a child something. After you showed them something, you'd probably look at them and try to see if those lights were on. You maybe you bow your head a little bit. Do you understand what I'm talking about? To your own children, you do things like that. So you
What do
have
you
it in
think?
there also.
What do you think they were trying to communicate whenever he was pointing at you and then pointing at himself?
Oh,
That y'all
absolutely.
were
It was,
alike, maybe?
yeah, that we were equal brothers, masters of the wood. Yep.
That's that's something
It
else,
was
man. That's
respect. Yeah. That was
man.
exactly what Chief Ernest actually told me. And when you think about it, if you were to turn it around and you never met somebody before and you pointed to your own chest and you pointed directly at them with your finger, that's almost like an act of violence. That's a challenge, But if you reverse that, the way it was explained to me was his finger was to me first and then to him. So he was recognizing me. Okay, he wasn't saying that he was bigger than me, better than me. He was saying that we were equal. Otherwise, he would have pointed to his own chest first.
Now, do you think that's why he was holding his palm out to get you to look at it for you to recognize that you're the same?
That's That's a really
There's no
heavy
way to
question.
know. There's no way to know, obviously, but I mean, what do you think about that? Because that's the first
That
thing that popped in my head
I
is
think that there
he's
was a
showing you his
difference.
hand, you know.
Because there was a difference. There was no lifeline. Either that or it was could be part of the headline, and those two have a big meaning. So maybe it was trying to show me that the only difference was that.
Right.
Otherwise, there was no difference.
It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah,
So
it is. Yeah.
let's get with our audience because we have a good crowd tonight. So if they want to, let's open it up to some questions, and I'll pop them up on the screen so Ernie can look at them and answer them. So if
Great.
anybody in the chat room has a question, now is the time to throw it up there. Um, yeah, Ernie, it's like me. I'm a forensic guy. You know what I mean?
Right.
I come at it as I have a law enforcement background, and so I look at things. I need forensics. I need to touch it, see it, smell it, measure it,
Right.
hold it, and any stuff like that. So that's
Exactly.
my research goes in that direction. Um, anything else just clutters the plate that I already got a full amount on, and but we have, like you said, we have a ton of forensic. See what I'm saying? But I use the
Right.
forensic to mostly to say I'm heading in the right direction. Because you can go into woods. I've gone into woods where and spent a whole day out there and found nothing, absolutely nothing. Well,
Right.
that tells me this is not a viable area. You know what I mean? Or maybe it is at a later time of the year. I don't know, but at this current time, it's not. But as a hunter, like you were, when you go out to scout prior to the season, you're
Right.
looking for scrapes, you're looking for rubs, you're looking for just all the signs that says this is a
That they're
viable area.
there.
This is
Yeah.
an area that I need to set up because I could get a big buck in this area, and you know, and that's where the equipment comes in because that's our gun. So once I know there's a
Right.
viable area, I'm going to start setting up audio or a trail cam or whatever I can to now step it up because I know I'm in a viable area. And now, and a lot is figuring out the time. Like with deer, you find a viable area, but now you got to figure out what time are they coming there.
Exactly.
So
You're making a great point there because a lot of people say, well, what proof? People that don't want to believe in them for one reason or another. Okay. They said, well, there is no proof. Well, I got news for you. Maybe you need to go out with Richard. Maybe you need to go out with myself for about a month. You survive off the land, and I'm going to hunt where there's deer track. You can go hunt in the sand pit where there isn't any, because
yep,
that's proof that the deer are there. So if we have footprints, which we do, okay, quite obviously, even Jeff Meldrum said will tell you that yes, these are footprints. Okay, that alone tells you that they exist. Um, Richard, do you mind if I get rid of my mosquitoes here?
yeah, go ahead real quick.
Okay.
But yeah, you're outside. You can do whatever you want. You're the guest. You know,
I
I
don't
don't
want to
care.
offend. I'm not supposed to be doing it, and I don't want to offend the people.
I've
So
I've been on
yeah,
shows where they
mosquitoes are
yeah. Steve Coles is I consider a good friend, and I really respect him a lot. I love his investigative style, and he does his show smoking. You know what I mean? And
okay.
I got another buddy of mine that he'll take a break and say, hey, we're gonna take 2 minutes here. I gotta um, so you're outside, you're doing your thing. I'm inside, so I'm not. I
Yeah,
don't
Oh yeah,
really.
you're
yeah.
definitely. I'm a smoker myself. You're definitely not going to offend us in any way, shape, or form.
Well,
We're all grown adults here.
well, yeah, yeah, for
No,
sure. But,
we do market the show for 18 and older, so yeah.
well,
Market the show for what?
We do
18 and
market
older.
for 18 and older.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, and really that a lot of people, if a lot of people know YouTube. So if you can leave a comment, then it's 18 and older. If you put it in the system that it's for all ages and that includes minors, you can't leave comments. It shuts comments off. because they don't want
Yeah, it
anybody
makes
going
sense.
on there. And
Yeah,
So
and seeing other
Yeah, I don't.
people's comments because it can be brutal.
yeah,
Yeah, people can definitely get nasty in the comment section. None of my videos are set for children at all. And every once in a while, there's been videos of things that happen, and as much as I try not to do it, I let the occasional shit fly
Yeah,
and everything
yeah,
else because
yeah.
it's still surprising sometimes,
Well, that was
and
one
it's
of the first
very
things that,
and the excitement too.
yeah, that was one of the first things that was told to me when I first really started getting involved in everything. That the people that the podcasters wanted on their show, they wanted that hype, they wanted that we'll call it the fear factor or whatever. And I don't think I have that. I don't I don't really have that in a way. You know, it does bother me, but um, not on live like this. And because of that, a lot of people were feigning away from it. Plus, the story in itself. I readily admit that to people. It's hard to believe, and if it's hard for you to believe, you can only imagine what I lived through for all these years. It
Right.
was extremely, extremely hard and extremely taxing because I've been berated and, as you can imagine, bullied and harassed, but by a lot of people. But it's like the majority of you out there um, have. I've been fortunate that you realize that this is where we are now. It's been a long push. I felt like giving up several times and saying I don't want to speak to anybody ever again. I don't want to be going out there again. It's changed me. It's completely changed me. My outlook on religion, on everything that's just going on in the world today. I would rather. It's one of the reasons why we moved down here, the country. Okay, it's still the way that America used to be when I was growing up. I grew up in the country, and that's the peace that I find is being out in the country, out in the woods, away from everything else where you're working for the man or doing whatever. There's so too many distractions, and now I feel like I could fall asleep out here, which
yeah,
yeah, to share with you guys is one of the things that bothered my dad and so many other members of the hunting party. I was known for just going out into the woods, finding an area or whatever, and then laying down and taking a nap right
yeah.
there. I was just totally relaxed. I really didn't care. I was just so at peace, and that's what we seek all the time, particularly like you, Richard, when you go out there, you're seeking that peace too, and that connection with nature and everything. And Johnny also, and a bunch of the other guys that are out there doing fantastic research, fantastic stuff that they're pursuing.
And I always encourage people to get out there. If you really look at the numbers, it's very little researchers out there actually doing this. I can probably count 30 or 40 in the state of Florida that I know of personally, with a state that's got millions and millions of people. So it's actually small numbers in comparison to the land that's out there and the research that we're doing. And so I'm always encouraging people to get out there and stuff like that. And the woods makes such. I saw an interview today, which I was going to call Johnny today and say, Johnny, you got to watch this interview. But it was this guy. I remember his first name was Chad. He's a retired Navy SEAL, and he was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He did not talk
I know
about
who
his
you're talking about.
very little on his military career did he discuss. It was mostly about his religious and where he's found Christ and where he stands with that.
Yeah.
And but he made this. He was talking, and I grasped onto it so well when he said he lives in Northwest Georgia, and he's got. I think he said he's got 700 or 7,000 acres. He's got a huge plot of land, and that's his quiet place. He doesn't go anywhere else. He squirrel hunts. He does his podcast from there. He doesn't go
Yeah.
anywhere. He travels and does some hunts and stuff like that. But he said when he went down to Austin to be on the Joe Rogan show, he said the first thing he noticed was the smell of
Yeah.
the city. That he said it just had this smell like he was overseas again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Joe was like, yeah, because you're smelling the smog, you're smelling the tires, you're smelling. There's so many smells in a city, and when you get
Right.
into the woods, and I tell people this all the time, kind of disregard your first hour in the woods. See what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because it's going to take you some time to acclimate,
Yeah.
and your hearing gets better, your sight gets better, your
Yeah.
smell gets better. And when I'm out there, everything just smells better. And then you'll pick up a smell of something that smells foul. See what I'm saying? Where in the city and stuff, there's so many smells. You know what I mean? You come accustomed to it. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
just,
There's anxiety. Yeah. There's
yeah,
anxiety out there. If I got to go into the city, I don't even care if it's a large town with traffic. I immediately start having anxiety around towns and everything, the people. So I I kind of try to avoid them a little bit. My feng shui is out there in the woods where I can just enjoy myself. Just to share with you guys, I have a neighbor here, and he has a place, a little hunting cabin, and he told me it was way up the side of this mountain en route to Kentucky. And I assure you that this is, he takes his rhino up there, and it's a climb getting up there in the rhino, but it's up on top of about a 400 or 500 foot ledge that this thing overlooks, and it overlooks a field that he likes to sit there and watch the deer walk through the field or the coyotes or whatever. And he built a pond there. I mean, it's just absolutely um, breathtaking to be up there. But when you get into that city, boy, I'm lost. Put me in the woods, I can find my way around. But you put me in the city, the only thing I want to find is the way out when I'm in the city.
yeah. I
Yeah.
notice that every morning I get up really early, and I go to head to my car, and I'm way out in the country. It's very quiet, and I can see every star in the sky. It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous, beautiful starlit sky. I drive 40 minutes to get to work, and I when I get there, I can't see any stars at all because of the light pollution. I see no stars
Yeah.
whatsoever. So
Yeah.
my home life where I'm at in the country, that's my peaceful place. You know what I mean? Because I go to work, I'm already getting all this pollution. I've got traffic, flying by on the road. I got, of course, people around me all the time, and I can't, I
Yeah.
got, light pollution.
Yeah.
So
There's actually a really good documentary, and I will have to. Then again, maybe you guys have seen it. It's about a guy that he basically wanted to. He knew he wanted to be a photographer for National Geographic, and his whole family told him not to do it, and pretty much everybody was against him. And he basically just went to Alaska, and I can't remember the time period, whether it was 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, but he was out there by himself the whole time. And he described how, I think it was when his girlfriend picked him up. I want to say it was like she was with him on the last stretch or a couple days near the end or something like that. And he would be pointing out animals to her, like way in the distance for her to look at. And she was like, "What are you talking about? There's nothing there." And what he began to realize is he was at the end of that, whatever that time period was, he was able to see a herd of whether it was elk or buffalo, water, but whatever
Yeah.
it was out there. Um, that these things were like 15, 10, 15 miles away.
mm,
And he's able to see them. And his girlfriend can't. And that how it being out there that long by himself, that it heightened all of his senses, and just it's like his real self just came alive out there. His physical abilities were just completely and totally amplified. That's got to be a
Yeah.
trip, you know.
And,
I get
and
my wife
oops, sorry.
every month and a half or two. My wife's like, "You hadn't been out in the woods in a while. You probably need to." She can tell when it's when it's getting to me, you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
I get that because it's been a couple months for me because the weather here in Florida has just been unbearable this year. The heat index has been unbelievable, and so I haven't been able to get out. But I'm looking forward to it. I want cooler weather so I can get back out there and do some stuff. So
Well, before we wrap it up, is there anything else you would like uh, people to know, or anything else you want to tell us another story, or anything you got you would like to share?
No, me not personally. I'd like to. Sorry, everybody, but I'd like to get in there because my wife cooked a steak for
oh,
dinner.
nice.
Hey,
For, for,
you don't
for
have to
dinner.
apologize for
And
that.
she, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, yeah. This is our life now. We've never had so much time together and everything. But I would appreciate it if people, if you want to know the sign language, if you want to see some of it, it was done by Sibylla Irwin. When I was on her show, she worked with me for months on end to draw what I had seen with the sign language. It's on what you see down below me here, newenglandencounters.etsy.com, and it's all lowercase. You know, is there a little bit of AI on there also? There is, but you will know the ones that you're looking at that are from the sign language, that uses sign language. And I'd appreciate some support. Maybe I can get a half a tank of gas, or maybe go to some of these places to see some of the people now, you know for a change. That's all I have. I'm sorry.
No, you're
No,
good. It was a
that's
great show.
yes, that's great. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's absolutely fascinating. And I will definitely be checking that out. What? But one last question is, Sevilla, is she's the one? Is, was she working with Carrie Arnold?
No,
She
no.
did. No, she
Oh,
did
did
do
she?
Carrie. She did do Carrie Arnold's, because I spoke with Carrie Arnold's uh, um, before everybody kind of knew him and everything. And I think he actually turned me on to, or turned Sibylla Irwin onto listening to my encounter, and getting involved with that, along with Dave Groves. There was she did a couple from the people that were on that show originally, but yeah, Carrie Arnold. That's a story
No,
that
I
so
knew I remembered her name from somewhere like that.
Sibylla
That's
Irwin.
awesome.
Yep, yep.
Well,
Mhm.
cool. We'll definitely check it out, and we really appreciate it. And hope I've got more questions for you whenever you don't have a steak waiting on you. So maybe we can bring you on again, and
That would be
you know,
fantastic.
if nothing else, talk offline, because
Yeah,
there's definitely more things that I could definitely learn. So, but
yeah.
we appreciate your time.
I appreciate you guys having me on the show today too.
Yeah, and you have my number, and I have your number. I always keep
I
everybody's
do.
number, and
Yes.
I can pass you on Johnny's, or you can reach out to Johnny at
Oh,
Sasquatch
you can
Unredacted at gmail.com.
you you can give him my number as long as you promise not to write it down in the stall of a gas station bathroom. Just make
No
me that promise,
promises.
and you can have it.
No
How
promises.
Richard
about
No
probably
promises.
Richard probably does that on the weekends anyway.
you didn't throw in Waffle House there?
No. Oh,
truck
that's acceptable. I'm just worried
truck
about gas
stops.
stations.
Truck
Yes.
stops. Yeah.
Truck stops.
Right.
All right.
Excellent. Well,
All right.
again,
Well,
thank you very much.
Thank you very much too. You guys have a wonderful night tonight.
All right.
take care, Ernie.
You also.
Oh
Yeah, it
man,
was a
that was
good
a good
show.
one.
Yeah, yeah. I told you,
Yeah,
Ernie was a really good guy. We've had some long conversations with each other and stuff like that. Kind of
well,
smart.
that answers this is actually one of the main questions I had, and what still motivates me is I want to know how far you can go with this. Like how the fact that you have eyewitnesses that are having incidents like this where there's communication, with hand and arm signals. It just kind of opens up a. It's not that I haven't heard that before, but I've never personally talked to anyone who's experienced something like that. And
Yeah.
that's very, very, very fascinating.
Yeah, I've always leaned towards it because I always picture myself in that situation, and that's the first thing I would do because I'm pretty sure he will not understand what I have to say. Um, but sometimes, your hands are universal sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I've always been big on that. So, well,
All right, man. Well,
we
we had a good
got,
one. Oh, just to remind everyone, tomorrow on my channel, tomorrow evening, the Sasquatch Encounter Brigade at 8:30, I'm going to do a Q&A. I'm going to go live on YouTube. So I've had a bunch of questions and people contact me and stuff after putting up the documentary. And I used to do Q&As all the time or just do lives in general. And
yeah, me too.
I figure I'd go ahead and do that. I'll do one tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern time. So if anybody gets bored, just come on and you got questions, ask me anything you want. I got a couple things, little things that I want to talk about and share, and uh, some things I'm kind of putting together out here. And uh, that's pretty much it. 8:30 tomorrow night on the Sasquatch Encounter Brigade.
And we do not have a show scheduled next week. It's a week off unless something pops up and it's real good. We'll can always throw something in there, but we don't have anything next week. The week after is a good show. I think I haven't really thrown it out there, but I'll say it tonight. We have a guy that is in Australia, and we're going to get in a conversation about the Yowie.
The
So
Yahwehs.
really looking forward to that. And that will be a Friday show. And the reason why it's a Friday show, back to a Friday on that particular occasion, is because that Saturday morning, when we do the show at 7 o'clock in the evening, it's Saturday morning at 9 a.m. to him. So,
Right.
and that's when he's up and he's available and stuff like that. So,
Well,
really look forward to that show.
good news for us, or good news for you in particular. I'm about to go back to having Fridays and Saturdays off, so we can do,
Awesome. We can go
yeah.
back to
So
Fridays.
neither one of us will have to worry about getting up on the nights we do the shows. So that'll be extremely helpful. Hopefully, I can hold it, and that's the way it'll be for at least 6 months. So
Well,
we'll
good.
see after that
Well,
again. But
let me know when that happens. And when I start scheduling, the ones I have on Thursdays coming up, I can change them to Fridays because I got plenty of time.
we still got
Um,
I think I still got. I think it. I'll have to look. I'll find. I've been off for over a week now, and I won't be going back for another week and a half. But when I go back, I'll get the exact date for when we start. But regardless, even the ones that are scheduled for Thursday now, you can keep them like that, or you can change
okay.
them. Whatever. But that's between you and the guest. But I'm good to go for whatever. So
Okay. Well, before we go, give everybody an update on Baby Bear.
she's doing excellent. She is gaining weight like she's supposed to, and we just had professional pictures done the other day, actually yesterday. So anybody who follows me on Facebook, you're going to be bombarded with baby pictures. And I don't care whether you like them or not. It's going to happen because there's a bunch of them.
That-
And she's
That's
a
just
cutie.
awesome. Yes, she
Yeah.
is. Yes, she is.
Nikki's doing good. Everybody's doing good. So
Good
good
deal.
times.
That's what's
All
important.
right, man.
All right,
Well,
buddy.
it's good seeing you. And I will see you next week. And I will talk to everyone or some of y'all tomorrow. If not, I'll see y'all next week.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Yeah, man. Have a good one.
All right, guys. Great show. You guys are awesome. There wasn't a lot of questions at the end, so maybe that means he answered a lot of it. Again, like I said, next weekend where is our one of our off weeks. Like I said, we tried to space them out so we can still do our research and we don't get burned out. Um, because we do have day jobs and like Johnny has a really good family life. Um, so like and subscribe. Share the videos. Enjoy yourselves. It's all free. It's there for you. And we look forward to seeing you guys again. Again, God bless each and every one of you guys. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. It's supposed to rain all weekend here, but we'll see. Take care. God bless, and get out there and start looking for this Sasquatch with us. All right, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.